Welcome to Fan4Racing Radio. I'm Fan4Racing Sharon, and joining us tonight is our Fan4Racing crew. We've got Chris Crichton, we've got Jay Huseman, and myself. So for Hot Topic Sound Up, and we've got quite the list of topics here for tonight. So, Chris, do you want to start us off?
Certainly, yeah, sure.
I see you got your Shane Van Gisbergen hat.
Yeah, I need to grab me one. This says, how was the racing for Chicago street races, NASCAR Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series? The trucks did not race, did they? I don't think they did.
Trucks did not race. It's just the Cup and the Xfinity.
Yeah. Well, it was a dominating weekend for SVG. There's no other way around it. But, yeah, let's do how was the racing for the Chicago street races?
Okay, Jay.
All right. First off, as it pertains to that, especially on the Xfinity side, and I hope I read these all right. Sharon, I talked to you about this. I didn't get them all necessarily, but on the Xfinity preview, we had Billy 4 Eyes 512, Jared Crabb 4556, Jimmy James 1807, Left Turn 99, Andy Gabb 1749, Nathan Scott D5X, and Rod Brown 8306. Had some comments. Sharon and I engaged with y'all. Most of it was great. Chicago street racing is great, and this was a preview going into it. SVG will dominate, and everybody was right on that. I think one had shouted out Connor Zilic, who is the one that gave him a run for his money in the Xfinity series. So I just wanted to say thank you. And again, I know that wasn't necessarily all that had commented on all of the videos, but the Xfinity preview, we had quite a few interactions, and we now have 61 subscribers. So I wanted to say thank you for that.
Yes, we had a lot of views.
On the recaps, yeah. Now on the recap or review side, as we're talking post-race, everybody was pretty much right. SVG, again, dominant. I don't know that we didn't expect that to sweep everything, both poles, both races as far as wins. I'm not going to say surprising, but we also saw anything can happen. On the Xfinity side, that one, Connor Zilic, battled him. I know there was some contact. I actually listened to Justin Marks, team owner today, talk about it, who technically is team owner for both drivers, although Connor was driving a junior motorsports car. Was a little interesting. He seemed to downplay that there was contact. Connor Zilic made some comments about next weekend at Sonoma, that he felt that was a little aggressive. Again, it's especially on the street course, and I'll start there. The course itself, it is a street course. There is tight racing, very limited option for passing. You almost have to knock on the door to get by. I'm not saying dump them or anything, but not to say it can't be done, because SVG, for the most part, is very clean in everything where he races. But that one required a little bit of door rubbing. And again, I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I think, honestly, he was one. I think John Taylor, when he ran at COTA, was the other one that came from other road course racing series, said, hey, these NASCAR boys are aggressive. They bump and bang. So I don't think you can fault him either. Again, I don't by any means view it dirty or even borderline that. So I thought it was a good race. Yes, it was dominated, but the strategies, there was different strategies, and so we saw a little bit of a mixture. On the Cup side, we saw a couple of situations that created some very, very differing strategies and what might happen. Again, you got a fast car and a great driver when it comes to road racing in general. It's going to play out the way it did. There at the end, Tyler Reddick appeared to have a faster car and obviously closing with fresher tires. Had they had a restart, which we'll get into maybe a little later, or another lap, and things might have been different. Then again, it might have been different because it might have been called due to rain. So, but again, I thought for a road or for a street course, let me be specific with that. For a street course, I thought it provided what we can expect from a street course. I do hope that NASCAR keeps one on the schedule for years to come, whether it be at Chicago or elsewhere. But I think one is enough for that. And I'll wait and go around again after everybody else.
Chris, what were your thoughts?
Anything can happen. Tell me who else has come into NASCAR and this quickly become such a dominating factor. Like, we knew Marcus Ambrose was really good, but it took time. We knew Tony Stewart was really good. It too took time. SVG, I think some thought he was a fluke. Like it just happened to happen that he won the very first street course race because nobody had any experience doing it. Man, we got that one wrong. And we got it real wrong. This cat is dominating. We have given SVG a year and a half to compute how to put a hole in the butts of these NASCAR drivers. And we're watching him firsthand. He's this good. He's this good. We are looking at a situation to where he could have 3 or 4 wins before we even start the playoffs. Do you know where that would seed him if he had 4 wins at this point in time? Somewhere between first and fourth, for sure. Like, I'm not saying that Christopher Bell's not going to get another win. I'm not saying that who's the other one with 3? Denny Hamlin. You know, Kyle Larson can definitely.
Kyle Larson, yep.
You know, William Byron could even come out of whatever slump he's in. But I'm telling you that there is a possibility that we will see SVG in the top 4 of our first playoff round. Whether or not he's able to stay there, I don't know. The more he gets, the more wins he gets, and the more stage wins he gets, the better off, I guess, those odds are going to be. But I think we underestimated this cat. I think that at the beginning of the year, we thought, okay, this is what we expected from him. But you don't beat these daddies with 2-second leads and 3-second leads. And I think his win was 16 seconds.
Mexico.
At Mexico. So, hey, you know, I think that the rest of the field is going to play catch up with SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen at these certain tracks. You can only say it was domination weekend for SVG. There are questions about how the Cup race ended. I can't wait to get to those, but for now, I'll pass the baton to Ms. Sharon.
Okay, I agree with you guys. I think SVG dominated the weekend. But you know what? There were times that we saw other leaders. And you asked when was the last time we saw somebody like SVG? I would say we saw it in the Xfinity series with Connor Zilisch. That guy can get in a car and he can race, and has done very, very well as a rookie in the Xfinity series. And he did come in second to SVG in the Xfinity series this weekend. He was one of the drivers that I thought could challenge Shane Van Gisbergen in the Xfinity series. And Sheldon Creed, man, I thought for a minute he might give him a run for his money, because Sheldon Creed actually led that race in the first stage of the race. And then he got kind of on the wrong side of the pit cycles, but he still had a top 5 finish. I really liked the racing in both of the series. It wasn't a given throughout the race that SVG was going to win. I know a lot of people thought that he would win, and I too knew he was capable of winning. But make no bones about it. These guys are learning and watching and keeping an eye on Shane Van Gisbergen. And it's going to be a matter of time before some of these drivers are going to catch up with him. And I think in the Cup Series, they're a little bit closer at catching up with him than they are in the Xfinity Series. But Connor Zilic is there in the Xfinity Series. In the Cup Series, you had, who was the guy in the Cup Series that led it? Oh,
Michael McDowell.
Yes, Michael McDowell led early, and he was one of the guys that I thought could give Shane Van Gisbergen a run, but he ran into an issue with his throttle, and so that sidelined him, and he could not be there at the end. I think Will Brown maybe could have maybe made some impact had he had a chance, but he was caught up in that lap 2 accident that took him out of the race. And the other driver that I thought might be able to give him a challenge was the guy that came in second, Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs admittedly made a couple mistakes and kind of lost his footing in those closing laps. But he also said he is hard to pass. Shane Van Gisbergen is very difficult to pass. But these guys are going to learn. And just like road course racing years ago, we used to bring in ringers on the road courses because these guys didn't race real well on road courses. They hadn't had that much experience on road courses. They eventually caught up, and we no longer need road course ringers to come in because our own guys are really good on the road courses. Well, that's going to happen, but not yet. Shane Van Gisbergen had it this weekend. And, you know, there were some things that happened that maybe could have changed it. Tyler Reddick, had he caught up to him, I wish I could have seen that. Tyler Reddick maybe could have given it a go and gone after that win against Shane Van Gisbergen. Would it have been easy? No, because he is that good. But I thought we saw some great racing. I know there's some controversy that we'll talk about later, but I thought overall the racing was pretty darn good on a road course that is not that easy. And, you know, Denny Hamlin, I got to give him a shout out. I don't think Denny Hamlin is necessarily a street course racer. I know he took the pole there a year or so ago, but he started from the dead last and came up to finish in the top 5. So I thought he had a good race. I got to give him his props when I can. So second round, Jay?
Yeah, a couple of things there, and I'm going to try and work backwards from what y'all talked about. Denny Hamlin does deserve a shout-out because he didn't get a whole lot of practice. His engine grenaded, as they say, so he hadn't had a whole lot of practice. He wasn't at the Mexico race, which was our previous road course, because he had missed that race due to the birth of his son. So, yeah, big shout-out to Denny Hamlin there. You mentioned of what used to be the way the Cup stars, the NASCAR Cup stars, didn't necessarily have the road course racing talent. They only raced on 2 per year. And a lot of the drivers, when it came to a season-long points battle or championship, opted to go for survival when it came to road course races, almost what they called throwaway races. Even some of your top teams would bring in, like you said, the road course racing aces. As we got into the era, especially with this new win and you're in format, that they said, hey, we got to be serious about this. There isn't a throwaway race. Every race matters very much so. And Chris, you brought this up of, is it fair, or, you know, say Shane Van Gisbergen is ranked in the top 4 just based off of road course wins? Well, one, yes, because that is part of our sport. Every race matters. There is no ranking as far as which race is worth more points. They all pay the same, and you get the same benefits that go with it. So, like you said, then it's a matter of whether he stays there and is competitive. And I heard the stats today in the first 8 races of oval tracks, SVG's average finish was 30th. And I'm rounding it off. In the last 8 of ovals. His average finish is 22nd. So we see the improvement he's making on oval tracks. And we've seen that from many other drivers, AJ Allmendinger, Juan Pablo Montoya, Marcus Ambrose. So, look out, because he is improving on the ovals. Now, the other teams or other drivers and teams catching up to him, and you start with the Xfinity. We saw it. Connor Zilic definitely went toe-to-toe with him, or wheel-to-wheel with him, fender to fender. Sheldon Creed was another one in the Xfinity series that was right there. On the Cup side, it was Michael McDowell initially. We saw Tyler Reddick coming on, Ty Gibbs, and we saw Gibbs coulda, shoulda, woulda at Mexico City as well. That might have had a shot at racing with him. The question I have, and only SVG could ever answer it, is have we seen him be at 100 or 110%? You talked about Michael McDowell leading those first laps. Michael McDowell, and I know there was some question on the restart. NASCAR deemed it a legit start, but he got him on that first start, and SVG, in my opinion, rode in second of, hey, it's not, the pay window isn't open, as they like to say at the dirt tracks, that when it was time, he turned it on to where he needed to, not beyond. In Mexico City, once he got in the lead and he said, hey, this is it, it's go time, he went, 16 seconds out. So, that question, it has to be asked, have we even seen SVG? And we have seen him where he got, for whatever reason, put to the back, have to work his way through traffic. We saw he can rip through traffic. And as I said, for the most part, clean. We talk about learning from him. Dave Moody pointed it out that when AJ Allmendinger was following him for several laps, there was one corner, and I don't remember which corner it was very specifically at Chicago Street Course, but we've seen this at a couple others, that SVG is the only one that makes a pass in a particular corner. And be darned if AJ didn't make that pass on somebody else. He learned it from SVG watching him,
Exactly.
and he was the only one making a pass in that corner. And AJ passed somebody in that corner later on after having followed SVG, So again, they're going to see, hey, this is what he's doing. He's making up time here. He's making up a position here. We can do that too. And I know they played a clip from Michael McDowell who said, hey, we understand he's great. We're not here to concede and run second. We got a car. We're going to do it. He got the jump on him, or, the first spot to start the race and led. Shame, unfortunately, for the cable. They said, I don't know if there was a price given, but a $10 part kept him, from winning whatever the payout was. But I think he would have had a shot. It would have been interesting for sure.
Chris?
Yeah. Y'all have made some great points. Typically, I've been kind of critical of road course racing over the years. It's something that I feel like is necessary, but it's kind of like a necessary evil, because in order to be compared to the best race car drivers in the world, you need to show that you can be competitive with them in their style racing. Unfortunately, those fellas most of the time they don't want to find out what oval racing is, and it's really, it's a different style. And we can go over short tracks and dirt tracks and speedways and whatnot. One thing I don't want to do is I don't want to sit here and put too much more into SVG, because that story will play itself out. I think that we are looking at a potential superstar in the sport, and it's not going to take him as long as I think that we've seen others to get it. It was a beautiful weekend. It was a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
It was a beautiful weekend, and our sport got to shine. It's so amazing. I don't know if it was Daytona USA, the car game that you got in and drove in Walmart. Remember the arcade game? Maybe that was Cruising USA. Maybe that was Cruising USA and Daytona were two different ones. I think that's really what it was. Yeah. It just kind of, there's certain pictures that we get from the Chicago race that will forever live in my brain. The one where the trolley cars pushing riding through the road, the traffic behind, the people walking. Those are all like epic memories that I'll forever cherish because I've seen this before in other tones of racing, but never a stock car. And that's what we got this weekend. And so I've been so critical for so long over road course racing. You're probably thinking, well, why would I be so in love? Why would I speak so beautifully about what we've seen at Chicago? And honestly, y'all, I can't explain it. As I said, maybe it goes back to the arcade games. Maybe it goes back to, I don't know. Like, I just feel like we belong in this style racing, but only as a one-off. I'm not asking for 12 races in city to be on the schedule at all. And I don't think any of us are, but it is something very special about this. I was 13 when we went to Brickyard for the first time. My dad was pretty sentimental about that. Like, I think it was something that this is my Brickyard moment. This is my Brickyard moment. And I got to see it 3 years in a row. And I've left every single time feeling this way, right? And so I just wanted to make that aware here because most of the time you're going to hear me criticize road course racing and the lack of interest that people have with NASCARs going around making left and right turns. I'm done with that. Let's move on. Michael McDowell, holy smokes. What a heartbreak. I mean, he goes out and wins the stage, throttles cable sticks open. That's the most scariest thing in the whole world, right? I mean, when your car's revving up to go, and I had a Cadillac one time. I promise you go crank it up in the morning time. I had an ECU unit problem, and we would go out there, and my wife would crank the car up, and it would go wow, 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 wow. I swear to you, and you had to reset the ECU, and that is scary. Like to think that could actually happen while you're driving. So. Michael McDowell was going to come out. I think he was going to give SVG a run for his money. I mean, look at who finished second. Ty Gibbs, right? I questioned Michael McDowell's move leaving Front Row Motorsports. Last year, Spire Motorsports did not give me any vibes that they were moving in the right direction, that they were legit contenders. But I did hear this commotion about Justin Haley saying, hey, I can't turn down a chance to go drive for Mr. H. And I'm thinking to myself, you're not driving for Mr. H. Wow. I mean, was I wrong? Obviously, when you looked at the pit row pushers of Michael McDowell when they were pushing him to the garage, there was Hendrick Motorsports, there was an Alex Bowman crewman, and some others that were pushing that car. So, I mean, hey, it's legit. Like, this is a secondary team, just as 2311 is, to JGR. So now Spire Motorsports seems like a legit place to go. Now, it's very unfortunate and almost unheard of that we would have a situation like Michael McDowell. The one place that you can go and be a contender at, and all of a sudden, mysteriously, something like this goes wrong, that's just bad luck, I guess. I don't believe in coincidence, but it's definitely something to leave your head scratching. A couple of other notes that I just wanted to bring to attention. Will Brown furthers the point that it's very tough for these guys to get into a car and go win a race, much less be contenders. Kimi Räikkönen was probably one of the most renowned F1 drivers ever in the world. Did not find NASCAR to be easy when he gave it a try in that Project 91 car. I just want to remind you guys that. Austin Hill, a top 10 at a street course. Come on, big guy. And Catherine Legg. How about Miss Legg? Huh? How about Miss Legg? A lot of people deserve that leg up, you know what I mean? I mean, because they doubted that woman. They doubted that woman. And she put on a clinic. People had her written off to not even make the race. And look at her, 19th, 18th position. So, unfortunately, we just don't have much to say about Xfinity. I'm glad that they participated. It's almost like a thank y'all for coming moment for them. I don't think that there was anything of great interest throughout that race. I mean, obviously they did all right. I think that shows the level skill. We see so many times these Xfinity guys remind us that they were on ARCA about 4 or 5 years ago when we would have 25 cautions and 3 people finish the race. 2 of them on foot, like Ricky Bobby and I'm not getting any response out of you guys. You know what? I'm just going to pass the baton. I think I've been talking too long.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I wanted to just mention a couple of things that I meant to mention last time and didn't. One is Larry Mack actually did say on Sirius XM earlier today that he thinks Shane Van Gisbergen can make it through round 8. So, yeah, because there's the Charlotte Roval, and we can probably expect that he'll do okay on that Charlotte Roval. And so there's a chance. And he also mentioned the fact that he is improving on the ovals. So they also mentioned on that same show that Shane Van Gisbergen has already expressed and is looking at property in North Carolina. He wants to stay here in the United States, him and his girlfriend. So he's looking to make this his career in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I think that's a good thing. And I think we are going to see him racing in this series and doing quite well. And the other thing is that I think that the racing at the Chicago Street Race kind of reminds me of racing that we see at short tracks, because it is so narrow, because they are so limited on that track. You brought up that there's some beating and banging that's going on. And I think that's to be expected at this track because of it. But they've got to be careful too, because there's no runoff space on the Chicago street course. So they've got to be careful that they don't take themselves out in the same process. So to me, it's a little bit like a short track on a road course. Also,
in a way, that's kind of the appeal to it, right? Is because it
yes.
does. You can't break the limitations of this racetrack.
Yes. So they say, the drivers have said repeatedly, you've got to be near perfect on this track in order to do well. The other thing is that I'm really happy about is I heard several drivers, including Denny Hamlin, say that they like it. They like the Chicago street course race, and that always bodes well. So I'm super excited about what I'm hearing from the track. Denny Hamlin talked about he heard a lot of first-time people, coming and to the track and enjoying what they were seeing. So we know we're reaching new audiences, and I thought the racing was fantastic. The stands looked to me like they were filled. So I think there were a lot of people taking it in, and it wasn't just the stands. It was people standing behind the fence, people standing throughout the track. So we saw some really good things happening. And the weather, you mentioned the weather. Thank goodness you got to see a sunny day in Chicago and how fantastic that is. And where else can you watch a race with the skyline like Chicago in the background and the lake in the background? I mean, it's fantastic. I spent 40 years in Chicago, and I love the downtown Chicago, and I'm glad people are seeing you don't have to worry. People are safe, and a lot of good things going on there. So I love it. And I've got another topic that I want to bring up later, but I thought the racing was fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, bring your other topic up then, Sharon. Go ahead.
Do I get to bring up the next topic, or do you want to do
Sure.
it, Chris?
No, you go ahead.
Chris?
Yeah, man. Hey, I think I left it all on the line on that last one. I make sure I hit all the curves.
Okay, then let's go to drivers upset with each other. Are they misunderstandings, or are they understandable? And should anyone be suspended? We had Logano upset with Chastain. We had Bowman. Wallace was more upset with Bowman. So what are your thoughts about some of the people being upset? There might have been another one. I couldn't think of what it was.
Honestly, am I next here?
Let's go with Chris this time. You went
all right,
first.
go. Okay.
I'd much rather build my notebook first. We're not IndyCar. We're not Formula One. Like, we have fenders on our cars. We have composite bodies. We are a contact sport. We're not going to shy away from that. It would completely dilute the style of racing that I think all of us enjoy. It is NASCAR. We do have fenders. Rubbing is racing, and there's consequences to pay. This is the time of season where Martinsville becomes so interesting, right? This is the time of season where typically retaliation happens at Richmond and whatnot. Some of these road course races, I think, are a good place to first burn, get a rivalry, and second, burn a rival. So you got a little bit of time to get back. You can drive it in a little bit hard, push them out of the way, do whatever you need. And look, we may need something like that for Sonoma, because this was an action-packed event. We're going to get to Sonoma next week, where these guys have a lot of laps. They've raced this place a lot of times. There's veteran drivers that have 18 to 20 plus starts, at Sonoma, because we race there every year, so at least one time, and have for I think since 1989 or 1990. I think that if we want to get into detail about Bowman and Wallace, I think that those two really handled it well in front of the camera. I think that the interview that was aired, of course, Alex Bowman had not talked to Bubba Wallace, but from my understanding in today's briefing, that they eventually found each other after the interview. And Wallace basically admitted that it was may have been by his own doing. So I think that's the reason why we didn't see much commotion between the two as they faced each other. And without a doubt, I think right now we're seeing a different side of Bubba. We've typically seen a mad Bubba, a Bubba with a chip on his shoulder. Right now we're seeing a Bubba going backwards. And we saw the early season success. And now we're getting to the nit-grit, and there's some complications going on. So it's actually really nice to see Bubba not in typical fighting fashion and more in the defense mode, because I think that somewhere deep down he understands that this is a business. And similar to Daniel Suarez, you can find yourself out of a ride, and it's not that hard. I know a lot of people want to connect the dots. Well, we connected a lot of dots with Suarez and Pitbull. And sure enough, all those rumors about Pitbull last year turned out to be real in February. And the other rumors were that Daniel Suarez was probably gone, and that was the reason for Pitbull getting out. And lo and behold, Suarez knew for 8 to 10 months already that he was not coming back next year, and had really had to hold that quiet until the organization.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that one.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about that later on, of course, but it does all back up to Bubba Wallace and his incident with Alex Bowman, and being a defensive driver right now, and understanding that he's falling in the pits, in the standings. The other ruckus, I believe, was
Logano and
Ross
Chastain.
And who was it?
Logano.
Yeah, Joey Logano. Hey, Logano gets out of the car. He's got a smile on his face. He's the most lovable guy in the world. But when that joker puts a helmet on, lack of oxygen goes to his head. But this time it wasn't really his fault. I think it was, more on Chastain. But how many times have we heard radio excerpts from Joey Logano this year? I mean, I think the entire field is Joey Logano's enemy, and it is every weekend. It doesn't take much to build that rivalry with Logano. So I don't think we need suspensions. I don't think we need reviews. I don't think we need talking to the boys. I don't see any reason for any of that. We're right where we want to be. We're cooking up stories. We're building up rivalries. It's hot outside. I don't know if you noticed the difference, from the wintertime to the summertime, and how drivers start getting a little bit more aggravated and start wanting to fight a little bit more in the pits and everywhere else as it gets hot outside. But I guarantee you there's a connection between the two. So I think that we're right where we need to be. I love to see good rivalries. I want to see some paybacks down the road. The one thing I am concerned about is Logano's reference that Chastain should probably be suspended or possibly fined or deducted points because he deliberately admitted to wrecking Joey Logano. Look, I mean, are you saying that Austin Dillon didn't admittedly wreck Eric Amarola that year for the Daytona 500 win? I mean, you don't have to say it for us to know it's true. So if he did make a retaliation and it did cause that, I mean, are we going to penalize the guy? Is that where we're at? I think there's been a couple of incidents where that has happened already. I think Noah Gragson, maybe a couple of years ago at Junior Motorsports, is really what kind of started all this with having to react to drivers reacting to getting intentionally wrecked. I think that's a little out of hand. I wish we could move on from that. Sharon.
No, Jay, you go next.
Oh, Jay.
Well, for one I guess to me, it must have all been just racing incidences on a tight street course, short track style of racing. I didn't even realize there was an issue between Logano and Chastain. I mean, again, there were a couple of situations throughout the race where people got spun around and got bumped or whatever. But I didn't even realize that one was a thing until I saw social media, which ironically was a bigger incident after the race than the Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman one, which was made more of during the race and actually even pre-race. You know, the fact that they were the head-to-head matchup in the in-season challenge gave it more fodder for the fans. Alex Bowman said it. They asked him about that, if that's what it was about. And, you know, I tried to tell people that drivers at that moment, it was a competitor, maybe not even knowing what car number or driver it was. The car next to you, you know, there's bumping and banging. Okay, maybe they know who it is. But unless somebody tells them, hey, that's for, you know, the playoff spot or the whatever, Bowman said he didn't really thought about it, you know. And those two had history. They interviewed him pre-race. They both joked about it. And Bubba actually said, hey, I owe you one. So it kind of played out like it was a carryover. But even afterwards, Bubba said the same thing. Now, at the time when it happened, obviously Bubba Wallace was upset. I saw the video clip of when he approached Bowman afterwards. He expressed some things, but also then walked away or got escorted away. Chris, you said he's keeping his emotions in check. I think he had a team with him that was helping him say your piece and let's move on. But he did in an interview say, after all of it was said and done, I really thought he was in a different position and doing a different thing, so maybe it was more on him. The way I saw it when it happened and they replayed it, they had been bumping and banging for several laps. Bowman had position on him several times, and Wallace, in my opinion, put him in a position you either check up or we wreck, and Bowman backed out until about the third or fourth time. And he said, hey, I've been alongside you. My nose is here. If you come across me, and it was to the left, across my nose, you're going into the wall because I'm not backing out anymore. And that's what happened. So I call it a racing incident. But yeah, to me, it was more on Bubba Wallace anyway. It was one of those corners where you wanted to go wide and cut to the inside. He went wide. Bowman had his nose a good ways up, and when he went wide, yeah, he hooked himself, in my opinion. So, and I think Bubba kind of realized that. And maybe when I say he still had frustration, maybe the frustration was it himself for having made that mistake, because he said he thought that Bowman was behind him and going to do a crossover and get to his inside, which is why he was then prepared to go down low. But from my vantage point and what I saw, he had cut Bowman off about 3 times, and Bowman gave him a break and said, enough is enough. Now, like I said, the fact that they were the head-to-head matchup, the pre-race thing, it played out well into that storyline. But I don't think at that point, either one of those drivers, it was all about, this is my position on the track, and I'm not giving it up.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think that the thing with Bowman and Wallace was was understandable for exactly the reasons you said. It'd been going on for a couple of laps where Wallace kept cutting him off, and Bowman had to check up. And you're right. The third time around, he said, I'm done. You do it again and you're going to go. So I think that was understandable why it happened. And I think Wallace came to realize that. The one with Logano and Chastain, I think, was a misunderstanding on Chastain's part, because Logano was being pushed from behind, and it wasn't him that caused the accident. It was the guy behind him that actually pushed him into Chastain. And I think once Chastain sits down and looks at that video, he'll realize that as well. So I think that was a misunderstanding, and I think it'll clear up once they go through and actually look at it and see what actually happened. And those are the kind of things that happen at short tracks. A lot of times it's not the guy who's directly behind you that hits the guy in front of him. It's the guy that's one or two cars behind that's actually causing that whole incident to happen, the accordion effect. So that's what happened with the Logano Chastain thing. And once that misunderstanding gets cleared up, I think they'll be okay. But Logano's done it. I mean, Logano's misunderstood things at times too. So I think he'll come to realize that too, once it's all said and done as well. So that's how I saw it. Chris, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I mean, the one guy we're not talking about actually took out about 4 cars, and that's Carson Hocevar. So anytime we can move the subject from poor Carson to somebody else. Look, but Alex Bowman and Bubba Wallace battled it out. It's what we love to see at the short track. It's something to cheer for when you got 2 guys that are willing to lay it on the line like that, and it meant a lot to Bubba. As I was trying to reiterate earlier, he's slipping in the standings, and he needed that good run. He had been turned around backwards already twice in the earlier evening, and it rebounded. His team rebounded, and he was looking for a good finish. He didn't need to have the incident happen, but he wasn't going to just give it up either. So this is what you want from a driver. You want a driver that will fight it out, and if it just doesn't work his way, then it's not his night or his day. And it's unfortunate for Bubba, but I think he learned a few things, and just seeing a different. I think most of the time that we've seen Bubba in a situation with some disagreement involved, we've seen a more hostile Bubba. This time we saw a defensive Bubba, and I think a lot of it has to do where he's sitting in the standings right now. That doesn't mean that we won't have something else come about later down the road. It's not the first time these 2 cats have gotten into each other either. And I don't know if anybody really took on the comments about Ross and Joey Logano. Did that one kind of get shuffled aside?
I didn't.
Go ahead.
I didn't see anything on it post-race, honestly, or whatever. It wasn't until today's social media that's why I said I hadn't even seen that until today's social media stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and keep in mind, too, it's after the race, and things are more heated right after the race than it is after a day or so, and they've had a chance to look at things. Jay, you want to go to your second round?
All right. On the Bubba Wallace thing, I think another factor is, and we'll see if this affects, I know he's got some daughters, but Denny Hamlin having a son, but Bubba Wallace having his first child. Kevin Harvick is one that has said it, that kind of tends to change your perspective. So I do think that is part of it when it comes to Bubba Wallace. I think too, and that's why I said some of it might have been more on himself. And I think back to Jimmy Johnson. Do you fight to hold that one position on the track and cost yourself 20-something positions, or do you give up that one and win the war? Which Jimmy Johnson, had he back at the Roval, he might have been into the playoffs and into the next round and gotten himself another championship maybe. So you got to be careful with that of, hey, is this one spot worth what it might cost me 3 races down the road when they do the playoffs or whatever. So with the Chastain Logano, from what I saw and heard on this, like I said, I didn't even see anything until the social media today, was what you called, sharing that accordion effect of, yeah, Chastain got hit by the car behind him, which happened to be Joey Logano, but the melee kind of started from behind him. He just happened to be the one to get pushed into Chastain. Later, Chastain may have then hit Joey, spun him out, wrecked him, whatever, with that thought of, hey, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back, type deal. So that was one of those, like you said, of understanding the full picture on it and whatnot. Both of them in this case, Chris, you mentioned of drivers that are maybe in a bad playoff spot, possibly a ride, keeping their ride. They're both established superstars and have no fear of that, if you will, from that perspective. And again, I am not a hater of either. I'm actually a fan of both, if you will. I don't think either one of them has the right to talk about, well, you did this and drive like that, because they both have. And I got no problem with that, other than, and I know a lot of people feel like Joey is one of them, if you're going to dish it out, you got to be able to take it. And I understand why people have that opinion of Joey Logano. And I think this is another case of that to a slight degree. Now, you mentioned the going back and penalizing. The one you really didn't bring up that NASCAR put themselves in it was Denny Hamlin, when he admitted on his own podcast a day after a race what he had done to Ross Chastain with intention. They went back and penalized him. That's where what Joey Logano was saying was that he admitted that he did wreck me on purpose, and where I think the penalty / points, whatever, should come from. And if that can be proven, NASCAR set their own precedents with that with Denny Hamlin. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of it. I don't know if it's true. A caller had called in today. It was with Dave Moody and Sirius XM Speedway, saying that Bowman was actually being looked at whether or not his was an intentional retaliation hooking of Bubba Wallace. I don't agree. Moody said he hadn't heard that either one was being looked into, but he didn't know exactly what NASCAR was doing or going to try and comment on what action they may take, because he doesn't like to do that. He'll talk about what they did after they make a decision. He said, but he doesn't try and conjecture and speculate. He's not big into speculation on what they may or may not do. And he hadn't even heard that they were looking into either incident, but we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think either one of them, if anything, the Joey Logano, Ross Chastain one may more so from my perspective, just because NASCAR has said, hey, if we find out you did admit and say it publicly, we got to act.
And that's just the thing. I don't think that he said it publicly. That was a private conversation between Joey Logano and Ross Chastain. And I think Joey's just trying to fuel the fire versus understand the situation. And
sadly, though, nowadays it's never a private. Somebody's got it recorded on video. I see Chris shaking his head. Like,
well, we'll
somebody
see.
had a video camera.
We'll see. But here's the thing. NASCAR, and they had it in the situation with Denny Hamlin too. They have the SMT data that they can look at and make a determination on what happened there. I think that, I do think that if they look at the situation, Ross Chastain realizes that he was in the wrong there in taking that out on, and it's not the first time that that's happened. We've said it. We've seen it at short tracks. We've seen it at other tracks where there's that accordion effect and somebody thinks somebody hit them. And then later on, they realize that that wasn't the case. It was 2 or 3 cars behind. So this is the same as that. I don't think there should be a suspension. I think it's a misunderstanding. And once that gets cleared up, then I think it's all good. I know Joey Logano's not going to get that back, but trust me, Joey Logano's not innocent. He was bumping and banging along with everybody else. So I don't think NASCAR is going to end up doing anything there. So, and you guys brought it up too, the pressure that both Wallace and Bowman are under. They're both on that bubble. And so they are going to fight for every position and do everything they can to keep those positions because they're not secure where they are. But Wallace is less secure than Bowman is. Another win from below the cut line, and it can happen. Michael McDowell could very well go to Sonoma and win. And he is below the cut line, and that's going to displace Wallace. So those positions are really important to these guys, and they're fighting hard for it. I can't blame them for it. I think you're right, Chris. I think they handled it fairly well. I think they did a good job of handling it. So we'll see. And yeah, he might have had a little help from crew members to get him out of there at the right time, but they did the right thing as far as handling the situation and talking to one another. So I think it's all good at this point. And we just move on now to the next race. Anything more that anybody wants to say? Chris, did you get a second chance?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I got two other things though. I thought Alex Bowman did a good job because he said, "Hey,
Yes.
When I gave my interview, I thought he was mad at me and blamed me." After their talk, he said, "I wish I'd have known." Bubba knew he was kind of in the wrong and admitted it. I'd have done my interviews differently. The second, Chris kind of hit on this. I would possibly look at no longer being a NASCAR fan if we truly get into the having a race steward position of, hey, you touch somebody, we're going to penalize you. I don't want to see that. I've said that here before. Chris mentioned it. It is stock car racing. I'm not saying you Bowman Gray take everybody out and last guy standing wins. However, bumping and banging is part of it.
That's right.
Jay, you want to pick up the next hot topic?
All right. Let's see what we got on our list. If any of those kind of led into it. Well, we kind of danced around it. Honestly, it was, I think, the last one to get put up. It's got brought up. Daniel Suarez and Trackhouse Racing have mutually agreed to part ways at the end of the season. Again, I've heard different time frames of how long this has been known, but listened to an interview with Justin Marks, and he said it was over this weekend that they truly sat down and made that decision and hugged, and both are going to go their separate ways. So where do we go from there?
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you caught any of the Daniel Suarez interviews over the last week, but a telltale sign of possibly, an unhappy driver, a place where things have been asked for and nothing's been getting done. I've never seen a driver so happy to leave an organization. I'm just not really sure if Suarez is going to be there by the end of the year. And maybe that's what that meeting was about, because they had definitely decided to part ways already. So maybe Justin Marks listened to that interview that he did and realized that this could go downhill pretty quick if some intervention didn't happen, because I do think that organizations grow and sometimes parts and pieces don't fit. It sounded really good for Rodney Childers to go to Fan4 Racing, and that lasted 3-4 months, right? So this is a relationship that's lasted 5 years. I was kind of confused, and maybe you guys can set me right. I thought Trackhouse came along with Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez. Was there a period where Trackhouse was not part of Chip Ganassi? I thought they bought Chip Ganassi Racing, and so Ross Chastain automatically transferred over to there.
Yeah.
Daniel Suarez, I think Justin said he was basically employee number 2. It was a single car team to get the charter when they bought Ganassi. Chastain's contract was with Ganassi, and they brought him over. The company, the race team was built on Daniel Suarez, honestly.
Okay. So that must have been a single year that my memory fails to remember. But sometimes you move on as an organization. I feel like Daniel, though I don't know where he's going to land, was kind of ready to get the hell out of there. I think that as we're getting the Netflix show that's coming on, there was some reference to there that his wife seemed pretty upset last year during a period of time in the playoffs, and maybe he wasn't getting good enough equipment or something to that matter. I guess really the question is, if the driver was unhappy, and obviously the team owner was probably unhappy, what's the solution? Is Trackhouse going to bring in Connor Zilic? And where does Daniel Suarez go? Because there's not very many open rides up for next year that we know of at this time anyway. So, I'm not sure what the excitement was to get out of there. He was asked about potentially going back to the Xfinity series, and kind of similar to Corey LaJoie's comments, he didn't seem to be too interested in that idea to go just to the Xfinity series. So, I don't know. Silly season's just now brewing. It's July. I guess some things can change between now and January. But, I am left to question whether or not maybe we've seen Daniel Suarez in the best operating equipment that he's ever going to get from this point forward.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's kind of unfortunate. I like Daniel Suarez. I like Trackhouse Racing. But this seems to be a mutual decision. I did hear Daniel make some comments that he felt like he wasn't getting the best equipment and the best of, wasn't high on the priority list for Trackhouse. Trackhouse is moving in a different direction, and he's on the outside looking in, and he's felt that way for a while. And so they sat down and talked about it and mutually agreed to part ways. And you got to be careful when things like that happen. You mentioned there might have been ties to the fact that Pitbull was part of the team, and Pitbull was basically, part of that. I don't know how much of the day-to-day operations he was part of, but I'm sure he was considered in some of those discussions. So I hope he does get a ride in the Cup Series, because Daniel, I think, is a very talented guy. I will say, I saw him talking with Kyle Busch in the background of one of the interviews, and I forget who the interview was now, because I was so intrigued with the fact that Kyle Busch and Daniel Suarez were having a pretty good conversation. And you might recall that Daniel Suarez used to ask Kyle Busch lots of questions as he was coming into the support, because he wanted to be as good as Kyle Busch. So he's been a mentor to Daniel Suarez, I think, right from the very beginning. And the thought did cross my mind, maybe we might see Daniel go to RCR. I don't know if that's going to be the case. It seems like when RCR goes to a third car team, that it doesn't always work out. But we'll see what happens. I really want him to get a ride again in the Cup Series with a team. Where it is, I don't know where it is. You mentioned right now, there aren't a lot of openings, but you never know what can happen. There's a lot of things that are kind of up in the air as well. So we'll see what happens. But I think Daniel Suarez could do better if he's getting what he needs in his car. So we'll see. Whose turn is it, Jay?
Mine, and I pretty much just got to echo the comments made here so far. Having gone third in this round, I would love to see him go somewhere else. The question is where. It has not been official, but it's one of those of you're blind if you don't see it coming of Connor Zilic. And we know that, we saw that the talent is there. We saw it with Joe Gibbs Racing of Ty Gibbs. and Kyle Busch. In the case of Kyle Busch, though, sponsorship went away. With
There's
Daniel
Corey Heim,
Suarez.
though, too.
What's that?
Oh, Corey Heim's with 2311, right?
Right. Well, supposedly, yes. There's ties there anyway. When you look at Daniel Suarez, though, there are several of the sponsors that are with him, not the team. So he does have some support there. And in this day and age, we know that you bring some money with you, you're a leg up on somebody that brings some talent. Again, I know that's a whole separate conversation we've had many, many times and will continue to have in the future. But the question really is where. And I know they even talked about that and joked about that. Anybody you see Daniel Suarez talking to now, is he looking for a ride with that team? And Kyle Busch is one of them, RCR. And Daniel addressed it. He's like, well, they're going to be doing a lot of speculating because I'm a friendly guy and I talk to everybody in the garage all the time. So when you talk about RCR, the intriguing thing is, and it's not a new unknown fact. So I think Austin Dillon needs to come out of the driver's seat. We've seen some good things again, or better finishes from him. As of recent, I know I was pretty harsh on him on the in-season challenge pick the other night when we talked about him. Ty Dillon has proven everybody wrong of, hey, quit overlooking me. So, but I think that's one of those of maybe a business. If you're talking about the third team, the problem becomes is Daniel Suarez in the same position? Because you have Austin Hill, who they've tested in the waters already, and Jesse Love coming up through the Xfinity. So again, a year or two and they're ready to bring Jesse Love in. Daniel Suarez is in the same boat. So you got to look at that. The big question for me is some of these teams that may not be top tier organizations. We talked about Ware Racing getting a new investor and trying to build to a 3-car team. That's a possibility. Again, is that something you want to invest or driver wants to invest in, is starting a company, which Daniel Suarez did when he went to Trackhouse. He's been down that road. Maybe it is he knows if he's one bringing some money in and that team will put everything behind him, at least initially, unfortunately, I think is what kind of happened at Trackhouse. If that's the case, and you're right, Daniel has made the comments a couple of times of that, feeling appreciated. And I know I've heard some things as far as going back to, the writing was on the wall when Pitbull left. I don't know, and I have no basis for that other than what other people want to connect these dots. So I'm not even going to go into that line of speculation.
That's why we say might.
Yeah. Is there a reason to possibly connect those dots? There is. I'm not disputing that. But there again, it may be you put two dots together that had nothing to do with each other either. Just because you can make a connection, does that make it true? No. And that's where I understand where Dave Moody doesn't like to get into this speculation, because he said, I have no facts. It would be a guess, and that's strictly. Now, Connor Zilic taking that ride, that's a pretty heavy pen line there with a black marker connecting those dots. But again, there's nothing official or even indicated as far as that. I hope too Daniel Suarez does get a ride. We're talking about new manufacturers coming in. If they bring in a new team or buy out somebody's charter, maybe want to do some different things. There's that possibility. Go ahead, Chris, because that's all I can say. There's possibilities.
Well, and I'll say too, real quick, Chris, if you don't mind. Justin Marks did kind of imply that they were going to help Daniel Suarez get a new ride as well. Go ahead, Chris.
That kind of sounds like something within the Chevy camp. And, I don't want to speculate, but Justin Haley's not having a really good year. So, that's a maybe a place that can be looked at. Outside of that, that's what silly season is kind of speculating, putting pieces together and trying to figure out where he might land. Yeah, I know for one thing, Carlos Slim has funded Daniel Suarez's bill his entire time of racing in America. So I don't see why the money's going to be there. Whoever wants to take the chance on him, it could be legacy. I guess, if they were searching for a third team, but will be interesting to see. I don't know if colleague would be a good fit. Ty Dillon's done a great job. Is there connections between them and Childress? There's no room at Childress. I don't believe Kyle Busch has signed up. Who's the other driver for Childress?
Austin.
Austin. He's
Austin Dillon.
Yeah, so maybe there's if we have two teams that dissolve at the end of the year, there may be plenty of room for charters. I don't know, but that's all speculation.
Highly speculative there.
I mean, I don't know. You don't really know. So kudos to Suarez for a great career. He got him some wins when he was at Trackhouse. I think from here on out, we'll probably see him struggle somewhere in some back tier ride because I don't see him going back to Gibbs, and I don't see Hendrick hiring him. And if you look at the top of the standings, those are the two most dominating teams right now in NASCAR. So.
Yep. I think we've pretty much covered that one. And Chris, I think we're back to you for the next time.
Hold on. I would like to speculate a little there. And I hate to do it because I don't want to come down on a driver when it comes to that. But when you talk about Spire Motorsports and choosing Justin Haley, and I'm sure they know more about him as a driver than I do. We have seen him have some good runs. But, Chris, you had hit on that earlier. You didn't see them coming, and I did. I mean, they were putting, again, you got somebody that's going to bring in whoever it was, and we don't know exactly, brought in some money. I mean, there was some money brought into Spire Motorsports when they bought a charter for $40 million. At that time, Corey LaJoie was their top driver. They were showing some great progress with him. They bring in McDowell, and then all of a sudden they want Haley, and Corey LaJoie is let go. I shook my head literally on that one of that. So I could see that, and for an organization that is climbing, we saw it, some new things. Spire Motorsports got their first pole as well as their first stage win this past week in the Chicago Street Course. I think Daniel Suarez would fit in there, and in my opinion, provides a better chance at winning and making the playoffs than Justin Haley. I think Justin Haley's options are limited on which tracks and just having the greatest of cars, whereas I think Daniel Suarez has shown he can run consistent and has a shot at all types of tracks. So that's from the outside perspective looking in. And
yeah,
I think Rodney Childers had the same opinion. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Justin Haley's proven anything over his career. Was he an upgrade to Corey LaJoie? Possibly. I think them two kind of have Justin Haley has better stats than Corey LaJoie, but honestly, that would be probably the best fit in heaven if there was any certain place that Daniel Suarez could go to and still be partially competitive. That would definitely be the seat that we could see him go to. Let's hit the calling cautions. Race control missed it, man.
Okay. Go ahead, Jay.
It's like the flagman looking at something and still throwing the caution.
That's my statement on that. Of man, I really try not to get on NASCAR and will generally side with them, but I think they made a huge mistake on this one. The Josh Berry incident early in the race, that one, again, did not appear to be getting moving. I don't know how long they said that one was. I think a minute and a half. They were trying to give him time to get going, and I get and appreciate that. I definitely, especially when it comes to the dirt tracks, of a car bobbles and you throw a caution, or they scrub the wall and, you know, cause a little bit of smoke and you throw the caution. I don't want to see that. This incident with, and I think that's the primary focus, is they're at the end of the race, which is why it got brought into question in a big way. Cody Ware blowing the brake rotor. They had, I don't remember how, I think they still said 93 miles an hour going into that tire barrier, burying it up above the nose, which, not to say we haven't seen anybody get out of that themselves, but it's pretty rare. The fact that he blew the brake rotor and hit that hard, supposedly there was a radio call that he said need help, and it was still 30 to 35 seconds. TV coverage saw it, showed it, and they talked about it. Are they going to throw caution? Oh, they're still racing. Oh, they're coming to the white. It hasn't been thrown yet. The white is out. Oh, now they threw the caution. So there was time. NASCAR said that they were waiting to see if he could go. When they heard that he needed help and the window net was down when they threw it, and that was after they had thrown the white, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I think they made a mistake. I know the rain was coming, and I understand they don't want to affect the outcome. And I was on the other end. I don't want to see NASCAR throw a caution at the end just to get a 2-lap shootout, green, white, checkered restart. SVG had them covered, and it might have cost them. I get that, but you got to make that decision. I haven't heard anybody say that they don't feel that should have come out earlier. If that means SVG don't win the race, or there is a melee on a restart, or it gets rained on and it ends under rain, you've got to make that call, in my opinion.
Chris.
Yeah, I mean, they blew it. I understand all the excuses of why they blew it, but they blew it. And when you have a driver communicating that they need help over the walkie-talkie system, over the radio system, and NASCAR still fails for 25 seconds at least after that communication, then you have to say that it's negligence. They knew it, and luckily the driver was conscious. Luckily the driver walked away. In any other situation, I'm not sure if there wouldn't be some legal issues with this, because it's pure negligence. I understand weather was on the way. I've heard all of these excuses. I will go back, and y'all will be mad at me for saying this. I sure hope 2311 wins that lawsuit. And you're going to scratch your head. Why? I mean, why did they not throw a caution? Why did NASCAR not throw a caution?
Hey, I didn't put 2311 lawsuit on the list tonight. I don't want to talk about it.
Hey, I'm telling you, look, Chevy does a lot of great things for NASCAR. A Chevy was in the lead. It wasn't nothing but Toyotas and Fords behind it. I mean, I don't know. Why did they not throw the caution? We would not have these questions if they had done it. Did they not want to see a re-rack and stack? Was it because of weather? Was it because they didn't, they wanted a Chevy to win? These are legitimate questions. Of course I'm going to bring up the 2311, because it once again says whether or not you get the same decisions made in that tower based off of what team you race for and who you race for and what manufacturer you race for. And that's the question. That's been the question at bay. We're arguing every week about what calls are made and when and why they're made. It's because we have nothing that we can directly sit in front of us and say, this constitutes a caution. This constitutes a decision, a reaction. One driver will get suspended for intentionally wrecking somebody, and another driver, it gets praised all over the radios and put on for advertisements for the next big race. I don't know. I'm confused. I say that, we need somebody besides NASCAR officiating this stuff, because that's where I believe that there's too many ifs and too many questions going on. Somebody needs to be held accountable. There was a man that hit a a pile of tires at 93 miles an hour wide open, and NASCAR decides to take their sweet, precious time to throw a caution. And then you have 4 things in front of you that say, well, maybe it was this, or maybe it was that, maybe it was this. Why hasn't NASCAR come out and said, we made a mistake here? I don't know.
Sharon, before you go, can I read something real quick?
Sure.
Denver Thurston has comments up there.
I had it up here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I didn't know if you had seen it. Go ahead.
It's right up here. Cody Ware went in like a human.
Oh, yep. All right.
SVG knew that might have been a yellow flag situation, so he hauled it to the white flag.
Excellent point, Denver. Excellent point. You beat me to the punch on that one before Sharon did.
Yeah, I did see the Denver had put that up there. And let me just say, I know a lot of people, and I don't think anybody disputes that they wish that caution would have come out sooner. The things that I've heard, I'd hate to be NASCAR. I mean, they showed us on the TV too. They had like 12 screens in 12 different locations all around the track. And I don't know how many people are watching those 12 screens. I don't think they've got 12 people watching each screen individually. But NASCAR's in a no-win situation. It wasn't that long ago, and I know safety has to come first. I 100% agree that safety has to come first. But it wasn't that long ago that people were complaining on 2 fronts here. One, drivers upset because they wanted to have a chance to get their car going again and get back on track. So NASCAR said that that's what they were doing. They thought it was a similar situation to when, somebody else crashed earlier in the race. Kyle Larson, I think it was, who got his car going again and got back on track. They didn't realize at the time that it was as fast as it was. It was after they reviewed it that they saw, and that's when they called the caution. Now, so in their point of view, they were giving him a chance to try to get it restarted again and get back on track. Again, they didn't realize it was as bad as it was. They didn't see the speed at the time. The other part of that is that we've also had complaints from fans and drivers alike. They don't want the last minute caution at the end of the race because it seems like it's contrived. And so they don't want contrived cautions at the end of the race. I don't think anybody would call this a contrived caution because I think everybody was wondering why the caution wasn't called sooner. But NASCAR has those kind of things going through their minds when these kind of things happen. And if they didn't see the speed at which he hit that thing, I can see it, the point of view. Now, tomorrow, NASCAR is going to be on Sirius XM, the morning drive. They have them on every Tuesday morning, and we will hear what their explanation is. I'm going by what I've heard so far about it. But NASCAR is in a no-win situation. They get called out. What did you put on? They get called out if they do, and they get called out if they don't. I agree that they probably could have called it sooner, but I'm not sitting in race control. I don't know what they saw and what they didn't see. And I can only go by what they said and what they tell us. But I don't buy into the conspiracy theories. I don't think NASCAR is trying to give Chevy an advantage or Chase Elliott an advantage or Dale Jr. an advantage or anything else. I don't think it's as contrived as a lot of fans think that it is. But I am anxious to hear what they say tomorrow morning on the morning drive as to their explanation. But keep in mind, if people make mistakes. NASCAR has more recently admitted when they've made a mistake and moved forward with it and learned from it so that they don't do it again. But keep in mind, you can't ask for it both ways. The drivers can't be saying, give us more time to get the car started so we can get back on the track, and then complain when they don't, especially if they didn't see it. So I don't know. I wish the caution would have come out sooner. I did see, and let me see if I can pull that up, because there was some comments. That's not what I want here. I want bookmarks. Somebody put the loop up with the timing and everything of the situation with Cody Ware. And let me see if I can get it on screen here. Share screen.
She's going to shrink us into small boxes here, Chris. We're going to get shuffled to the side if she gets it up on screen. Are you trying to bring it up on the whole screen?
I'm trying to see the window. Let me see if I can get the window up. Oh, I know what okay, I have to go into, give me a minute here.
Well, we continue to have a sanctioning body that has to adhere to the public's questions of when, where, and why we throw cautions. Cautions should reiterate theirself. You should not question and ever have to answer why you threw a caution. But no, NASCAR's put themselves in this box where they feel the need to have to explain every call that they make when they are the officials. We don't hear.
NASCAR's not doing that. The fans and the media are asking for that.
Yeah, well, the NASCAR doesn't have any reason to answer. Look, does the referee get on stage after the Super Bowl and explain why he called that offsides? Or explain why roughing the passer was roughing the passer that time when it wasn't 3 times beforehand? No, they don't. So anytime that you open yourself up to that, basically having to say, well, we want to change how we call cautions, that's what got themselves in this situation this weekend. That's why people are questioning, because NASCAR doesn't want to do this or do that to upset fans. Look, make the officiating.
Okay. Let me show this video. Okay. Let me show the video, and then we'll talk on the other side of it. Let me get back up here. Okay, I've got to start it all over here. Who's... Can you guys see it? Is that playing?
It's not playing. I can see the shot you have up, but it's not playing the video.
Okay, let me see if it's in this one. Hold on.
Yeah, it shows it. It shows that there, but it's not playing the actual video.
Okay. Okay, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to get the video up, I guess. So let me go back and take it down. Go ahead, Chris, and continue.
It's just NASCAR should quit having to explain themselves for every time they make a call, or they shouldn't have to answer to challenging whether or not these cautions are legit, or is this caution versus another. They put themselves in this box by admitting to the public that sometimes they overreact, or sometimes, they've manipulated cautions. I mean, my goodness, we had the fun caution for the All-Star race. If that wasn't a true admittance to what NASCAR's done in the past, I mean, the fact of it is, the truth the matter be told is, this is an ongoing thing with fans questioning whether or not NASCAR is legitimately making these calls on missing or making these calls on purpose. When you have Kyle Larson who spins around at Las Vegas, doesn't touch anything, and it gets a caution, and then you have a last lap guy who spins around, sinks flat tire, rolling around the bottom of the racetrack, debris going everywhere, and they don't call the caution. What is the difference in the two? And I think that the officiating should be out of the hands of NASCAR and into a private company, just as officials for referees and umpires and all that. I just believe that that's where we're at now in racing. We need a secondary officiating and it not be in the hands of NASCAR, so that NASCAR doesn't have to come out and explain week in, week out on the calls question. This was a serious situation. This was a guy who hit head on in a collision at 93 miles an hour, and NASCAR neglected to throw the caution. And we'll always have all the questions of why. Why did they neglect to throw the caution? Did they not see it? Was it out? Was it weather? Was it they didn't want to see a double, a restart, overtime? I don't know, but we'll never get those true answers to those questions. I do know that.
Okay, let me see if I can get this video. Whoops, hold on. Let me see if I can get this video up again. Okay. Now, let me start it over so you see it from the beginning.
He's been locking up a lot of corners I see on the TV, so you probably just got a flat spot on the left front. And we're in the tires.
This is Cody Ware's radio. These are seconds that are ticking off.
You see, there's corner workers right there.
Yellow's out, yellow's out.
Okay, there's the minute 8. Okay, it says, did NASCAR wait too long to throw the yellow for Cody Ware's accident? The white flag was 22 seconds after the impact. Caution thrown 34 seconds after impact. Ware was seen after 50 seconds. Safety crew had hands after 1 minute, 8 seconds. Could it have been handled better? I don't know. And that's just, one person on social media. So, we're talking about a matter of seconds here with regard to this situation. NASCAR did, like I say, they tried to give him enough time thinking that he could get started again. Safety should always be first. And Denver says NASCAR should have a virtual safety car on road. Street course like F1 has, that would solve most of the problems. So they do need to have somebody in those turns like that can radio back to NASCAR and let them know this is serious. You need to throw the caution. Go ahead.
All right. First off, when you're talking about, Chris, you mentioned it, the flagman in the corner there. I actually applied for one of those at Atlanta Road Course. Those would not have the Road Atlanta. Those are not necessarily track officials. All they do is wave that flag to let drivers know there's somebody coming. If and when a call is made for a full course yellow, then they would switch to the yellow that NASCAR is putting out. So they don't have the authority. And from what I heard over the discussion on Sirius XM throughout the day, excuse me, they do not have a radio. Denver, now that's a different question. Whether they should or not is different. I am not familiar with what the virtual safety car is with Formula One. Again, I'll admit I'm not a big Formula One fan all the way around. But if there is something there that would assist with this, I would be all for copying or innovating or whatever. So if there's something there, I want to go back to Denver's previous comment, though. There was enough time where even SVG's crew said, hey, get to the white because they may throw a yellow. If teams have the time, and I am normally on the side of NASCAR, and they generally go on the side of safety, which is what's appalling to me. And Sharon, you were using the word contrive. I'm going to use the word manufactured or scripted because I'm a wrestling fan. So, yeah, I get they didn't want to have that accusation, and I understand that. But safety has to override that. They may not have known, understand, hey, he lost a brake rotor and he hit it 93 miles an hour. I get that they wouldn't have had all that info yet. But like I said, of times we've seen somebody drive in, windshield deep, they're not going to get out on their own. And there's that possibility. We've seen it on, say, super speedways. If they hit the wall at a certain angle, they immediately throw because they don't know, and seconds matter. So like I said, I understand.
Yes.
Exactly. And I understand NASCAR's in a position. We're talking about a road course, monitoring a street course specifically, very different, but they've been doing it for 3 years of road courses, of knowing where everything's at. But like I said, the cameras showed it, TV talked about it, the crews told SVG, get to the white, the yellow could come out. There was time. So if other people have the time to make that call, I feel like NASCAR does. When it comes to being in this position, I think that, in my opinion, they do because they want to be transparent. And in this case, I think they need to come out and say, hey, we missed it. We made a mistake. For whatever reason, we were delayed. If it was, so far from what I've heard there, right, and they have in the past. I think this is one where they need to. So far from what I've heard, they said, hey, they just didn't get the word or didn't know how bad or whatever. I just can't buy it. Like I said, if other teams are calling their drivers and saying, hey, get to the white, there was time for it. And that's just from my perspective. As a whole, I think NASCAR does a great job. I think they might have missed it on this one. Chris, I do think you got an interesting point of, and I've said this with tech inspection as well as possibly the officiating or judgment or rules as far as that of having a outside third party hired. There may be something there. I understand that thought process anyway. I don't know if we'll ever see it happen in racing, but there's certainly something there to think about. And Denver, if you got more info on what the virtual safety car is, like I said, I'm just not familiar with it. If that is something that can be implemented in NASCAR that Formula One uses, I'll support Formula One's plan. Still don't like them as a series, but that's aside from the point.
I think at the very least, this has illustrated that NASCAR needs to do something differently if they did not have a full picture of what was going on there. So something different needs to happen. Now, he did say on the audio, need help. And so that should have been a clue right there. But he doesn't say it immediately.
Well,
it does take a few seconds for him to say that.
And when they broke that one down there too, that was after listening to it a couple of times. The question was whether or not that was Cody as the driver saying, I need help, or if that was a spotter asking him if he needed help.
Ah, gotcha.
So there again, I understand that possibility, but there was still, like I said, just too many things that I feel they should have thrown it. If nothing else, I would rather defend myself of, hey, I threw the caution and I was a flag man 3 times and that was one of them. I'll defend that. Hey, I thought there was an issue. My bad. I shouldn't have thrown it.
Complaining. Drivers need to stop complaining. You got to give me more time.
This is one where I don't think we would have saw a whole lot of lashback, or it would have been very minimal as far as, hey, that was a manufactured caution. They just wanted to see a green-white check. Because in this case, I don't think they did. SVG clearly had the dominant car. Nobody was going to touch him. There was rain coming, and I get that. It rained on him during post-race. I understand those thoughts, but safety has to be first. And I can't quite read that. I'll go in the comment section.
SVG on board, SVG knew it, and you see him all in it.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
SVG
agree.
saw it or if he was told by his crew. But the crew members had a different point of view than NASCAR did too, because they could clearly see that corner a lot more clearly than NASCAR.
Like I said, I was watching it on TV. TV coverage talked about it. They questioned it as SVG was coming to the white. Are they going to throw the white or the yellow? Are they going to throw the white or the yellow? That's too much time to have even just. Yeah, I just
seconds count.
And I'm with Chris. I think they blew it on this one. I really do.
Chris, any more you want to say?
I think y'all covered it pretty well. I don't know if I have anything to add to it other than, if you want to continue the topic of bringing in a third-party officiating, I really think that's a legitimate discussion that should be looked at. Formula One doesn't really have an outside person, but they don't have a panel of people either that make decisions. It's one certain person, and I think he got fired one time because of a decision made between Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton a few years ago. So at least somebody's held accountable. In this instance, nobody can be held accountable, and that's not fair to Cody Ware or any other race car driver that's put in that kind of situation, because it should always be safety first. It should always be. Yes. It should be no question at all. We've all been irritated at a bunch of cautions and watched the guy park it over there in the corner a little bit close to the tractor tire, and the flagman just refuses to throw the yellow flag because they're trying to get the race in. I've never completely agreed with that. I think that driver should probably be penalized for creating a caution before we don't throw the caution and have something really bad happen. So I'm always on the side of caution. That's why they call me Flag of Caution. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I side on the air of caution.
Well, I
like caution flags.
Yes.
I like them. Yeah.
Well, not everybody likes the caution flags. I will say this: NASCAR does do a talk through on Mondays where they look at things and what can we do better. And I'm sure this is one of those things that they will look at and say, "This we need to do this better." We cannot let safety be a question in people's minds on the track. And let's be clear, Cody Ware did get out of the car. He did walk away from it. He's going to be sore for several days, I'm sure. But I don't know, they probably sent him to be evaluated in the infield care center as well. So, yeah, I think that I wish they could have called it sooner. I think it puts light on the fact that they need to do something differently. And I have confidence that NASCAR will look at that and try to do things differently. But the drivers, the fans, people can't have it both ways. When they talk about the end of the races, if safety comes first, they got to let safety come first. So fans have to be careful what they ask for, as well as drivers sometimes. Okay, anything more that we want to say here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Let's go to let's see, is it your turn, Jay? I think it's your turn again.
All right. Let's see. Oops. Get back up under there. Well, one thing that got brought up, and I might be mistaken, okay, and you do have it up here. Will the Chicago Street Race return in 2026? Maybe. I heard something today that it was a 3-year deal with a 2-year option. Is there truth to that? Okay. I know pretty much the talk has been of it probably being done and moving, San Diego being one, as well as Philadelphia. And I know they got a separate in-stadium possibility being discussed, but the street course also within Philadelphia is still being mentioned. Whatever the city may be, if they're going to continue to do a street course, does it still happen in Chicago versus somewhere else? And like I said, I didn't know there was the 4th and 5th year option. So that's interesting. I think Chicago is a great place to have it. I know there were some questions about whether or not it should be on 4th of July weekend with all the other things they have going on that weekend. I've been happy with it other than the rain, and we didn't get that until after this year. So it worked out. I can't say of it, it seems like 3, maybe up to 5 years is about the max of sustained interest. I think other cities then, knowing that they can go and put it somewhere else, this is one I would be okay with if they did it every year, picked a new city every year and rotated it around. I know they like to be that for ticket sales and everything else, track planning. Hey, you got a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal, stand by it. And if that's the case, so be it. But they've had their 3 years, so maybe it is time to move on. If they do another 2 years there, I'm okay with that too. Again, I'm okay with one street course per year, wherever it be. Because I do find intrigue in it. I don't want to see it every week or every other week either. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out as far as next year's schedule. I would kind of like to see it, like I said, of rotate every year. I understand that doesn't bode well for planning purposes because the schedule don't come out till September. So if you're planning on that race for next year or 2 years down the road, I get the other side of it. Hey, we're going to do it for 3 years. You got 3 years to take your shot at it. I know, Sharon, you got to go last year, so I get that as well. We'll have to see what happens, though, but I'm open to it either way. I understand if they move out, just like the Bristol Dirt. I enjoyed it. I thought they were getting better with it. When they opted to go away from it, I wasn't mad either. I would have liked to have seen it go 1 more year or 2 more years, but I wasn't mad that they went away from it either because, they did 3 years and moved on. I was okay with that.
Oh, okay. Chris?
I think it matters where we do this at. It's not like any city. This would fit in any city. I think backdrops have a real what word am I looking for? Influence on how and where we should
impact.
Do
Yep.
Yeah, it should. I mean, for sure. You want a place like Detroit where there's tall buildings, or Chicago, or maybe a New York City. San Diego, I mean, are we just going there because it's beaches? What's the scenery? What's the backdrop? Miami is a kind of a street course as well, and it just doesn't have the appeal that I think that Chicago has brought. So do we do just street races to do street races? That's a good question, Jay. I think it suits well for Chicago. I am a proponent of bringing back Chicagoland. So if that has anything to do with it, then I guess I would be willing to kind of trade off to bring that speedway back, just because I love to bring speedways back. I think that bringing a speedway back to life is just as good as Christmas. But I just don't want this street course to land somewhere else and not have the sex appeal that it has. I mean, we're in the Windy City. It's a media capital of the world. I know they say that, Times Square in New York, that's kind of the only place I think that would really have this amount of impact, right? There's only a few cities across the nation that can have this type of impact, considering what you have. I mean, most of us journalists, that when we started with some company that was out of Chicago. I think that's probably just about anybody that's ever written anything online. The corporate office is in Chicago, so it's kind of to my belief, it's at least the sports media capital of the world. So I know that there was an article written today by the Sun, something about that it's not us, it's them. They pulled the old Seinfeld. It's not me. It's not you. It's me. So I'm not sure that's going to be one opinion versus others. The one thing that I do wish we kind of did, and this is kind of off subject, but I don't care. I wish that we left an area that, even if it's just a small area, even if we had to donate $10 to make it happen, whatever, I would like to have, if we have a street course, just that one area where NASCAR doesn't make a profit off of it. Maybe a backstretch or something to that, because we have to remember we're invading a city limit somewhere. We are invading somebody's everyday life. And it's all about the money, and they put up these big plasters everywhere, so you can't really see anything that's going on. And that's okay to a point, but who knows what benefit we might get if we continue to go to Chicago. Maybe that bad press goes away if we just leave a small area, even if it's overpacked and you can't even really see anything, because that many people would take advantage of just having a free spot to watch something from. I just think that would probably make a little bit more sense to please the people of the downtown areas. I know, Jay, you've been in the military. You've been in a lot of downtown areas. I've been in a lot of downtown areas. I can only imagine, Miss Sharon, you've been in a lot of downtown areas. A lot of our audience probably may not have as much experience in downtown areas. There are people that live in the downtown area, and these people don't have cars. They commute and walk everywhere they go. And you can only imagine the impact that this race had on locals. So, yes, I'm all about making sure we belong in the city that we're in. If they want to change it to another city, let's make sure that it fits for what we've been able to get out of the Chicago piece. I'll be honest with you. I've enjoyed it for 3 years. I could go for a couple more. That's where I stand. Would I like a little open area for some fans that don't necessarily have to pay $100 or $300 a ticket to get in? Absolutely, because remember, we're borrowing this area from people who live there. This is not a racetrack where people built houses after a racetrack was already there. This is an area that is a downtown zone where people live, and they commute back and forth, and they walk to places they go, and we're invading their space. And that's probably where the negative attention has come from, Miss Sharon or Jay, whoever.
Yeah, it's my turn. Okay, a couple of things. Brandon Johnson, Adam Stern posted this. Brandon Johnson's administration is open to 2 more years of NASCAR Chicago street racing, but only after exploring the possibility of shifting the marquee event to a different date that does not pose challenges that the 4th of July weekend presents. Now, I know in the past, the 4th of July.
Is that the new mayor, Sharon?
Yes, that's the
okay.
mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
And there was another post by Adam Stern as well. Let me see if I can find that. Chicago Loop Alliance president, Michael Edwards. We would love to see NASCAR come back. I think we've all sort of figured out how to gain advantage from it and to partake in it and to make a business from it. It would be great to have it back. And that was on WGN News. Now, the article that Chris was talking about was in the Sun-Times, and Pete Pistone says, I can speak. The Sun-Times columnist headline, Dear NASCAR, it's not you, it's us. Before you motored into our lives, we never knew we needed auto racing on our beloved lakefront. That's because we didn't need it. We speak baseball here, football, basketball, hockey. That was in the Chicago Sun-Times. But Pete Pistone says, I can speak clearly working here in Chicago media, radio, and TV and print for a lot of years that Greenberg, the author, is the quintessential big city sports writer who finds literally everything and anything wrong, including with teams in the city. That's his brand. So he's not surprised by his take. His brand is to find fault, to make criticism, and so forth. I think overall, it's been a positive take on the Chicago street race, even the people that live there. And Denny Hamlin talked about it, the fact that casual fans are becoming engaged in NASCAR because of SVG, because of the race being there. And there are, a lot of people were in the stands, but there were a lot of people standing by the fences watching the drivers race. So they are getting a chance to see what happens there. Now, Denver Thurston says, I know NASCAR is set in traditional way. I respect that, but street racing is the future of NASCAR. And to that, I appreciate Thurston's comments. We've been trying to get people to comment here for quite a while. And Thurston, we love that you're giving us some comments. But I will say, with regard to your latest comment there, I like the Chicago street race. What we tend to do is, we like 1.5 mile tracks, and we built a whole bunch of 1.5 mile tracks, and then everybody hated 1.5 mile tracks. And so we went away to road course racing, and now we like 1.5 mile tracks. Don't have the knee-jerk reaction. Yes, we love the Chicago street race. I don't know that any other city can give what Chicago can give when it comes to a street race. And this is a 360 turn for me. I was skeptical of the street race at Chicago. So I think that it has been a success. I've been to the Chicago street race. It was very well done. Chicago has a lot of open space as well. A lot of cities don't have that kind of open space with the Buckingham Fountain, with the park area that's there. There's a golf course included in that lakefront park area. So I don't know. And I hear people talking all the time when they come to the race, they come because it is the 4th of July. So I think moving it away from the 4th of July would be a mistake. A lot of people use public transit. They usually have their 4th of July fireworks on July 3rd. So the fireworks are happening before the Chicago race. I do know that they start putting everything up 2 weeks prior, though. So it is more than just the weekend that they're disrupting things in the city there. But public transportation is what a lot of those folks use. And I know when I went, I came from the suburbs. We took the L train in every day for the race. And every day, I'm talking 2 days, I took the L train in to see the race. So a lot of cities don't have that kind of system that they can take that kind of public transportation in to see the race. And their cost was minimal when you think about what it would have cost to park downtown. So I really would love to see them come back for the next 2 years. I don't know that maybe they can find a different date, but I think 4th of July weekend is a perfect date for it. For the reasons I stated. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, that one, I think there's a couple things on what you both said, and I'll start with the date. There is an aspect of fans, or I just use the word fans in general, that want it on the 4th of July weekend. That's their destination. But then there's the other side, and I think that came from, as you said, the mayor that said, hey, we already got a lot going on. Let's spread it out. And that comes from a business and logistics and all that. So there's both sides to that. Chris, you brought up the location if they were to change it to another city. I think there is a huge thing to be said. Chicago, very specifically, Sharon and I covered on the preview, the landmarks and area you're driving through the landscape as you're doing it. Okay, take San Diego, for example. Do we have that same there? Don't know. Honestly, I don't know a lot about San Diego, so there may be, and I just don't know it. However, I think from the San Diego side, it is more of the market. As Sharon mentioned, there are so many new fans that are now engaging with it when it comes like this. So, and we know that California has been kind of a market area. Excuse me, got the hiccups all of a sudden. Do I think that a place like New York, Detroit, or Philadelphia, yeah, by all means, if possible, to hit and go by some of those landmark things, if it's feasible. So I think there's two sides to that. One would be the market area and engaging fans in an area we don't have. New York City, I think, would be a great one. Again, Sharon talked about it. This wasn't a, one day we're in and out. They do a great job with it. I think they said by Monday morning it was cleared out. The problem is going to a new city. When they did this first one, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks of they were repairing roads so that they could race on them. That was a factor that first year. Second and third year, they had barricades ready and were just moving them around real quick on day of race and then after on Sunday night. And I think they've learned a lot, and I think other cities will take notice of that. And lastly, Denver, I see, at least for tonight, you got a crown and a number one. We do greatly appreciate you interacting here. I understand what you're saying, again, of moving away from just the tradition way NASCAR's done it, and I think they have. And I think having one per year is great. I know, Sharon, you mentioned it, as you said, and I can think of several things we talk about road courses, the mile and a half, night racing. That was a big thing. All of a sudden, everybody was wanting to do a night race. Then it was, hey, we don't want no more night racing. We race better during the day. That's where the key factor is. And I know somebody on Sirius XM, I don't remember exactly which, NASCAR is not and will not be a road racing series. There is series for that. Trans Am, IndyCar. Again, ovals for IndyCar is the exception. I'm not saying we don't mix them in, but I don't want to see it become that. I like the variety. And honestly, that's where I like the ARCA Menard series. They include dirt. So again, and I think that shows the true talent of a driver. Can you master all types? So I like that they're mixing it in. But I also, like you said, I don't want to see them go overboard. I think one a year, whether it be at Chicago or elsewhere, is great. Looking forward to it. But certainly do appreciate the input, Denver. I just don't fully buy into that one of it's the future. At least having one a year, I'm all on board. Absolutely. But I've seen it in the past. Like I said, night racing, road courses, mile and a half. Don't jump the gun.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them at Detroit. We've seen Miami. We've seen Cincinnati. Or no, it's Cleveland, I believe. Did an airport race. Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is really cool. You got a lot of the landmarks that you see. Yeah, so, I think that's makes a critical piece into this. Is what are the landmarks and what are we racing around that makes it unique. Sure, I mean, we could be a stadium truck series as well. So I think NASCAR is just really open to trying different things and exploiting the race, our racing to as many crowds as possible. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to buy all into that. Will it create certain series that maybe do this type of style racing? Maybe so, but I think it's pretty expensive. I think the idea of moving it around every year to different places is a very expensive cost, because it takes so much planning and all. At least when you do an event, you do it 3 to 5 years. Most of the time by year 3, 4, or 5, you're really going to nail it. The first 2 years is a lot of learning, but you also don't have to move stuff. It goes into a warehouse or a facility and it sits there until it's needed again. So just imagine taking this equipment every year and moving it around, and 6 months ahead of time, finding a place for it to sit and all that logistics just would be absolutely crazy. So there will have to be a decision very quickly whether or not the San Diego deal is a real deal or not. I understand that there's a market there. A street race in San Francisco would be insane.
Man, that's.
I don't know if y'all seen The Rock, but that's as close to a street race as you'll ever see. And it's a Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery movie. Denver may not be old enough to follow us on this one, but he really wrecked that yellow Lamborghini. So maybe LA. That if it's not an LA, if it's not a Detroit, if it's not a New York City, I just really, Nashville did a street course race, and I think that it was a pretty good race for IndyCar. It was a coming home race for what's his dang name? Oh my goodness, Greg, I can't think of the IndyCar driver's name. He drives for Penske. Anyway, oh my goodness, can't believe I've had a brain fart. But anyway, LA, New York, Chicago, Detroit. Let's not think of any other places besides there for this type of style racing. Maybe Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a good place, obvious good market. They're close enough to LA. I think that they're what is it, like a 4-hour drive from LA to Las Vegas. That's any part of Central America right now, or central part of the American landscape. Chicago's a certain amount of distance to Cincinnati and St. Louis, and all it's within, stone's throw basically of each other. So if we added a third race to that market for a street course, that's great. The one thing that I do want to say before I pass it is, let's bring Daytona back to where it belongs. Let's bring Daytona. Let's bring the Firecracker 400 back. Let's put it. We lived and learned with the with taking Darlington away off of Labor Day. I want to watch Daytona under the lights on Saturday night.
There's a reason they moved it. There's a reason they moved Daytona, because I've been to that Daytona race at 4th of July, and it is sweltering hot. And if it's sweltering hot for me and I'm not in a race car, imagine what it is for the race car drivers. So there's a reason why they've moved it. And that's something to keep in mind there as well. But let me get back to Julie Geese needs to be given credit for what's happened with the Chicago street race. Yes, she has done an amazing job of engaging people into that race.
President of a track that doesn't exist. I thought I couldn't help it when they announced that she was the president of the Chicago street course. I'm like, yes, it's not even a track. I'm like, how do you president? But no, you are 100% correct.
She makes it a point to reach out to all kinds of businesses, organizations, to engage them in coming to this race and being a part of it. And so Julie Geese really needs to be given a lot of credit. The other person I want to give a lot of credit to is Ben Kennedy, because he oversaw this whole project, and what a fantastic job they all did. But I do think that I hope they do return for another 2 years, because as you guys mentioned, this is a huge investment. It is a lot to manage and maneuver. It took them a couple of years to kind of pull this all together. And so they've got things pretty much working well at Chicagoland. Why not make it a 5-year project and before you move it to a different track? It's going to be hard to find the same success at another street course that they found at Chicago. I'm not saying it can't be done. I think it can be done. And I think my days of saying it can't be done with NASCAR are kind of over, because they've done a lot of things that I thought couldn't be done and done it well. So I think it should come back for another couple of years. Anything more that you guys want to say?
Yeah, real quick, I'll be serious, and then I'm gonna be funny. I think I'm funny. No, you mentioned Julie, and I don't know if they were to say move it to Chicago, if she would become the president of the San Diego. I'll just use that as the example.
Right. I thought
If
about that
not, if not, whoever they have there, I think ought to bring her on as a consultant. Because I know when it came to the logistics after the first year, again, the first year, new to NASCAR, new to everybody and whatnot, she is one too that put the focus on, hey, Sunday night, let's get it wrapped up. Monday morning, traffic back open and ready to go. Chris, you mentioned the barriers and whatnot of storage. Hey, we're going to move it out of the way of the normal activity, but we're not going to, get rid of it either. So that come next year, boom, it's right there. It'll take us a shorter time to set up and get ready and not disrupt. So yeah, I think she did do a lot of great things when it comes to that. I said I was going to be funny. I say we go to Minneapolis during the winter. Goodyear develops snow tires and we go snow racing in Minneapolis. No,
I have heard of ice racing.
I saw it. Some cousin sent me some videos of, again, is that NASCAR's future? You just said it. You can't say never anymore in NASCAR. So I just thought I'd throw that out there while you were on that. It's interesting. It's interesting with that. But yeah, it would need some development of serious gripped, spiked snow tires. What you got, Chris? And I'm done for tonight.
Mississippi River freeze over?
Pardon me?
No.
Okay, well, we can go somewhere where let's do a frozen lake race next. Let's do that.
You got to go with the river if you're not from a...
I'm waiting for somebody to recommend a figure eight. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Well, it's been discussed. That to me is dangerous, but no, for education purpose here, safety clip, don't mess around on rivers, even if they have ice on them, because a river, there's always moving water, and that's dangerous. Even if there is ice on the river.
Cars.
I'm talking about people. I mean, seriously, even if a river is frozen over, you've got to be very, very careful because it doesn't get thick enough. There's that moving water. Yeah, that's dangerous of that. In a lake, just say you fall in and go through the ice and fall in, you're sinking into the water. On a river, with the moving water, you sink down and then get drugged under the ice because of the flow. So bad idea. Bad idea. Be safe. Be smart.
Chris, was there something more?
No? I mean, other than let's go race Lake Michigan.
Not going to happen.
I don't even know if that gets ice around the edges, does it?
It does get ice, but it's like you said, I don't think it's that thick.
Yeah, that one would be tough to freeze over.
Are there any other topics we need to discuss tonight?
I don't know that we got time. We're already at 12 after 11 there, Sharon. I don't know if you noticed the time. Yeah.
Actually, I'm doing okay tonight. I'm kind of surprised.
Oh, okay.
I've been drinking something here too to keep me awake. Let's see. Calling cautions. Corey Heim missed the race. Hendrick Motorsports had some problems.
I was going to say, I don't know if you want to go longer here, but if not, we can carry them over. I definitely have some opinions on.
Are you saying no, Chris? I think Chris is. Are you saying no?
No. I mean, I'm good, whatever.
Oh, okay. Go ahead,
Well,
Jay.
All right. And this goes back to, again, it kind of carries into something that grinds on me. Corey Heim was faster, even making a mistake in qualifying, faster than 7 cars and had to go home. I disagree with that. I really do. I don't know.
Yeah.
and made a mistake. I mean, he said that it was his fault. He made a mistake and hit the wall or whatever, and his time was still faster than 7 other drivers, and he's the one that has to go home. I get the world we're in. I just don't like it, and I think that is something that needs to be addressed and changed, and I'm afraid where Chris is going to go with it then, and that was my bad. We should have just signed off and gone home. I am home.
Chris?
Go ahead, Chris.
I hope 2311 wins this lawsuit.
Saw that one cut. Yeah, after I started, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to bait him into that one."
Boy, Heim needs somewhere to race next year, right? He's such a an inspiring driver. I really like Corey.
But on the other,
got a lot of talent. But this weekend we got to talk about Catherine Legg.
yes, I was going to say on the other side of that.
Unfortunately, Heim didn't make it, but fortunate enough, Legg did. Did Legg have a little bit more to prove? I believe so. Did she get a little bit more brownie points than a fourth 2311 car making the field? Absolutely. Corey Heim has many races to come. I was just the other day listening to something about Brad Keselowski when he was talking, when he got called in by Mr. Hendrick to come to his house for basically Hendrick to tell him that he was not going to fulfill his contract that he had originally signed to take over the 5 car. And, he said that they kind of got off to a slow start in 08 and he failed to make a race. And that just kind of went right back to what Corey Heim had to go through. These are young guys. They need to know what that feels like. And I think it gives them a little inspiration to push harder. Obviously, it impacted Brad Keselowski's, upbringing. He got fired before he even got hired. Mark Martin come out in 09 and did amazing things in that car. And Mr. Hendrick had to make a tough decision there. And Brad Keselowski went on to win a championship and has been one of the biggest name drivers in Cup Series. So I think that this is a learning process for Heim. And, he'll bounce back from it. Sometimes you can give it your best and it still be not enough. The 2311 car had speed, but that's why we have charter systems, so that these people, these race car drivers have, a guaranteed starting spot. It was crazy that, we have 41 drivers that attempted Chicago, but we're going to a road course in California and we only have 37 drivers. So, what gives? Why was Chicago such an important race to have all these open cars at? I'm not sure. You would have thought that maybe there was some misplanning there.
West Coast. I mean, that's one of. I still would have thought there might have been a couple more of West Coast teams that maybe put one together. But yeah, that one I get. That's a long haul with most of these teams. Just take 2311 for example. They put one together to bring to Chicago or Daytona, but not to the West Coast.
Yeah. I tend to agree with Chris on this one. I think Corey Heim knew he made a mistake. And when you make mistakes, bad things happen. And he did not make the race. Everybody's under the same rules. Denny Hamlin didn't get to practice because his motor went. A lot of the Hendrick Motorsports cars had issues. And I think all 4 Hendrick Motorsports cars had to start at the back of the pack. So,
they did.
Yeah. So, and it's because there was something wrong with the cars in each case. So, those are the rules. And he made a mistake. And I think it is part of the learning curve. You got to know what that feels like. And on the good side of it, we did get to see Catherine Legg. And I think that there was a lot of benefit from seeing what she can do on that street course race. So I think it was okay that Corey Heim didn't miss it. He's got a lot of races, like Chris said, that we're going to be seeing him on the track and probably winning a lot of the races coming up here in the future. NASCAR might look at that and review it, but I do think that it was okay that Corey Heim did not make that race.
Here's the thing when I look at it. First off, Catherine Legg actually did out-qualify Corey Heim, so that isn't the next one that would have been bumped. he did out-qualify Eric Jones, Cody Ware, Ty Dillon, Bubba Wallace. And I don't know exactly because Bubba Wallace's time was 10 seconds off. And then you had Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Denny Hamlin that did not take time but are part of the charter system and guaranteed spots. Here's the thing, and I'm not opposed to having a certain number of provisionals. When it used to be, and I'm not saying I want to go back to this, but just to give you an example, it used to be 43 car field, 40 were based on time, and 3 provisionals. But they also then put a limit, and I think some of the tracks and series have this, of you only get so many provisionals. What happened with Denny Hamlin? Man, and he's a top championship contender. Motor blows up, you got to go to a backup car. I get it. I don't want to see him have to go home based on that. However, you use up one of your provisionals. You only get X number of provisionals for a year. You know, have your car ready and whatnot. The two, and I don't remember what Chase Elliott and William Byron's were. I think they crashed and had problems in practice and had to make some modifications or didn't get time. Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson were the other two Hendricks that qualified 12th and 14th or something. They went to the back because of unapproved adjustments post-qualifying. Here's where I feel like there's an issue. If you are one of the charter teams, the top 36, you know you are guaranteed you don't have to put in any effort. And you said what a driver learns by having to be on top of your game and be one of the fastest cars in order to get in. These drivers and teams that know they don't, that they got that to fall back on. And like I said, this weekend I'd have felt horrible if Denny Hamlin had been the one that got home, and he is not my favorite driver. Because again, the motor blew up, he didn't have a chance. I get it. And that's why I said I'm okay with, if we're sticking with a 40 car field, 35 qualify in on time, 5 provisionals, again, put a limit on how many you can use throughout a year. And if William Byron, your points leader for the championship, has to go home 1 week, I get it. He's going to be back. He's got wins. He's locked into the playoffs. It's not going to knock him out of the playoffs, but it's going to hurt. And that means he's got to make sure every week he's on top of his game and qualifying and not getting sent home. So I'm in favor of the fastest cars for that weekend at that race being the ones to race. I just am.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we had a top 35 rule. It wasn't good enough. We went to charter systems. That's where we are. Charters guarantee a starting spot. And that's just the way that it's going to be. There's certain sponsors that want to make sure that before they make a $40 million investment or $100 million investment, that they're guaranteed to have that advertisement on the side of their race car. And that's where corporate comes in and makes these rules, and that's why we have established what we've established. Does it work for IndyCar? Certainly it works for IndyCar. They have a go or go home day,
Exactly.
But this, this is NASCAR. This is how that they conduct business there. This is a selling point for sponsorship. I don't think that we would have ever been happy or ever heard the end of it if a Dale Earnhardt went home because he didn't qualify, or a Jeff Gordon went home because he didn't qualify, or a Jimmy Johnson. I think that any of that is absurd. We had a past champions provisional. I'm all for bringing back the top 35. I'm also all for expanding the field to 43 cars where nobody has to go home. And if that makes it that many more cars in the field, that's great. I guess then we'll have somebody show up with the 44th car, and somebody will eventually go home. It's what makes the twin 125s so interesting every February, because we have cars that come to that race that are not going to make it, and that's always fun to see who gets bumped and who doesn't get it. So I don't know. I don't have much to say on Huisman's idea of what he thinks NASCAR should do. I think it sounds a lot like the old top 35 rule, and it worked for a very long time. That rule was set after race 5. The first 5 races of the year were a continuation of the previous season, and I think you only had 5 provisionals that you could use throughout the year, including past champions provisionals. So outside of that, you would see, I don't think that you would see a Jeff Gordon miss the field. What you would have seen more of, if these situations ever arise or happen, would be just like what you see in IndyCar, somebody else buying the ride. And it would have a different number on the car with your sponsors on it. So
we saw that in NASCAR once or twice.
William Byron would not make the race. It would just cost Hendrick maybe, probably $50,000, $100,000 or more to make sure that they bought a starting position from one of these cats that put a car into the race and made it. So then you're creating a whole side hustle every week as somebody continues to go out there and try to be that one car that can sell its number on the side of the door for a set profit because such and such missed the field. So I don't really think that there's an actual fix to this. I think it's pretty much worked itself out to be, whether you call it the charter system or the top 35. Either way, we're going to have some guaranteed starting spots.
Yeah, if you're going to pay $40 million for that charter, you're going to want a guaranteed starting spot. You've got sponsors that are going to want a guaranteed starting spot before they even consider whether or not they're going to sponsor. I think we're talking about a situation that happens once or twice a year where we have more cars than we have starting spots. And I think that's okay. I don't want to go back to the start and park days where people are coming just because they can make some money for showing up at a racetrack. So I think it's good where it's at right now. I understand where you're coming from. If I'm Corey Heim, I'm probably disappointed that I'm not in the race. But I don't think we need to go back to starting parks and all of that. And I don't think it happens often enough that it really needs to be something that we change. Unless you want to say everybody who comes gets to be in the race, but that's not going to fly either because you're going to go right back to the start and park days. I think it's good where it's at, and I think that's what we need to do. I think there's a reason we went to that to begin with. Nobody liked
part of it was, and I understand the sponsorship money, and I think about, so just say a super late model team, they have sponsors that again they pay and want to be on the car and in the race, and I understand that's where the provisionals come in. The one thing that with the top 35, as Chris mentioned, the first 5 races were from last year's races, and then from there it was based on current year. Second off of after say 5 races or whatever, if you weren't out inside the top 35, you weren't guaranteed. However, you could race your way and earn your way into that top 35. So as you got back on track and started running well, that you were locked in because you had raced your way in and earned your way in. Some of these teams, again, and I'm not going to use anybody specific, but hadn't earned it. And that's where, and overall, NASCAR says we want to put the best on-track product. If you are sending cars home that were faster than other cars, you're not. And you're right, Sharon, I understand of having what we call the start and park. I was not a fan of that, and I'm glad NASCAR did some things, and shrinking the field was part of that, and I agree and support that. And that's why I said if they want to keep it at 40, being that's about the number we have right now. But I think part of why we're only getting 40 entries now is because any new prospective team is looking at it is, I'm not racing to get in a 40-car field. I'm racing to get in a 4-car field because there are only 4 open spots. I could be the 5th fastest car and possibly not get in. I mean, that is just ridiculous in my opinion. Now that's the far extreme again of all 4 open or multiple open cars that they're the top 4 and you're 5th. However, that is a possibility, and that's what I don't agree with.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Just one. Just one.
I'm going to speculate here.
Okay.
Speculate. I'm serious. I think other teams looked at the list and they said, "Oh, Catherine Legg's on here. We'll beat her for sure." It didn't happen, boys. You got beat by Legg.
Yep.
Legg beat you. She qualified and probably outran you. So don't underestimate that leg power, baby. That's right.
Well,
I'm all in for Catherine Legg.
I got to be honest
She's a real
here.
race car driver. She's
I
a
gotta
real
be
race car driver.
Yes,
I agree. And I was happy to see she did good this weekend. I will say, though, having, like you said, looked at the entry list, no one driver's going home, not based on her as a driver. That was more based on the team that she was with, playing a part in it, of that. But, yeah, that probably of the open teams, being that we had, what was it, Will Brown, Corey Heim, trying to think who was in the 66. Austin Hill with Richard Childress, and then Josh Bilicki in the 66. I would have taken either the 66 of Bilicki or Catherine Legg as the one to not make it. Turns out it was Corey Heim. And again, he said he made a mistake. Otherwise, it would have been one of the others. But yeah, I mean, that's what adds to that intrigue. And Chris, you brought it up when it comes to IndyCar. That is one of the biggest days of IndyCar, Indianapolis 500 preliminaries is bump day. You know, I mean, they have a day of it. You talked about for NASCAR, what used to be, I don't feel it's as exciting anymore because it's about one driver instead of the field or 15, 7 to 8 in each of the races.
For that too.
I understand that, and I know that's what it always. I get sponsors saying, "Hey," but there again of let me think. Exalta used to be DuPont. Okay, Exalta, William Byron, and just because he was the one that was at the bottom, they don't get in. Exalta wants to be in that race. Put your sponsor onto Catherine Legg's car. You get the exposure, and it comes out of Hendrick Motorsports' pocket. Hey, we agreed to pay you this amount for this many races. You didn't make one of those races. That percentage is what we're using to go on to Catherine's Legg car. You don't get that money. Guess what? I guarantee you they put more of a focus on making sure they aren't the one that gets sent home because it's going to cost them.
But if a driver makes a mistake, like Corey Heim made a mistake, doesn't matter.
And that's where, like I said, I'm all about having, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off, but having the provisionals, because again, Hamlin's car motor blown up. I mean, you know, that happens. I get it. And that's why I'm okay with a provisional system, but I think it needs to be limited as well. Go ahead, Chris. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's great. I mean, it worked itself out. I mean, that's where it is.
Yep, it is where it is. Did you have something more there, Chris?
No, not at all.
Okay. Trying to see, I think that might be everything. Oh, the in-season challenge.
Yeah, I'm going to do this time.
How'd everybody do on their in-season challenge?
With the new picks, I think of the 8, obviously, again, if somebody picked Ty Dillon to beat Brad Keselowski, good on you. 1, 2, Nemechek beating Elliott, that one hurt. That was one of my last ones. I think I got 6 of the 8. Some of them were new picks. Oh, yeah, Zane Smith beating Chris Buescher. That was kind of the other, call it upset. I will say this, and I know, Sharon, we'll probably do another show sometime later in the week. Hopefully Taz comes back and is able to.
Yeah, I need to talk to you about that.
Legacy Motor Club is going to have one car in the Final Four. I just look at the names that are now.
Motor Club has, because next
They will have one. They're going head to head. Yeah, they're going head to head. They will have one advance to the Final Four, but we're down to 8. And talk about, if you will, your all-stars, but Ty Dillon, Alex Bowman, John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, Ryan Preece, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, and Zane Smith. To me, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but Ty Gibbs and Tyler Reddick are your 2 top all-star drivers left. 2 out of 8. I like it. Again, did I make $1 million off of it? Exactly. Your top organizations are out. I like it. I mean, it did not match my picks, and I didn't win $1 million, but I said and right now, of going back to my original 4 that I said were the most consistent, I'm only down to 1 of them now, and it's Ryan Preece. But I got Tyler Reddick beating him on the road course next week.
I think you get the bragging rights this week, though, Jay.
It was going to be real close, and I think it puts it back to even. I will say this, because I said of Chase Elliott was my one I had going to the final 2, and then Ty Gibbs. Gibbs is the only one I had on my original full bracket that is even still in it. That's left. I'm down to 1 of that. I had 2. His Chase Elliott. Oh, I had 3. Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski.
How about you, Chris? How'd you do?
I had Ty Gibbs and William Byron for the end, so doing well with Ty Gibbs, I guess. But look, this is what we needed. We needed exposure for somebody besides a Larson and a Byron and
Yep, absolutely.
Driver. And so right now we've got a list of capable drivers that's and I think Tyler Reddick is really the one that to watch going out now. He could possibly carry this on to the final 2. Ty Gibbs as well, so bracket busters happened on the first week. It's a shame, just like I kind of brought to y'all's attention, that Shane Van Gisbergen could possibly win 2 races into this, 2 or 3 races into this thing, and he has. So, whoops. I guess we kind of missed that one.
If he wins next week, he's going to be in that list of drivers with 3 wins.
I just want to point that out. Relate that to is the bracket good? Even if SVG wins again next week at Sonoma on a road course, and it could happen, might happen, likely to happen. Is the bracket still good, even though the winningest driver in those 5 races isn't in it? Yeah, Imagine if that were to happen in the point standings without the top 35 or charter teams. I just make that kind. Yeah, you like that? You like that? How about them apples? How about them apples?
I like
that. Would be pretty
interesting.
interesting.
Could very well, with the momentum that he has, be knocked out in the first round, but win several races toward the end of the season. Christopher Bell had no problem winning 3 races close together. I mean, we seen what Tony Stewart did a few years ago with making a late season tear. It's going to happen. It's eventually going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Somebody's going to get kicked out of the playoffs early, and then they're going to go for a late run, and we're all going to be sitting here like, how in the heck did we miss this one? So I think that's part of the fun of it. That creates content.
I think Lane Riggs in the Truck Series last year didn't make the playoffs and won 2, maybe 3. I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 of those playoff races, but he wasn't in the playoffs. I mean, that's the way it happens. That's, like I said, to me, that adds to the intrigue.
It does. I tell you, it's been really a lot of fun, but you've got a lot of your top seeds that have fallen out of this very early. I think they need to start it at a normal oval track versus super speedway type track. I know you disagree with me, but
no, I mean, was it ideal? Obviously not, because again, it cost you $1 million because it wiped everybody out. I'm okay with it. Again, I think we saw a bigger incident at Atlanta than we have in the past. But that goes back to something, Chris, I meant to bring that up. You're talking about Daytona going back to the Firecracker 400, 4th of July weekend. And Sharon's right, same reason Indy isn't in July anymore, of just brutal hot. But I would possibly agree with you for tradition purposes. He referenced Darlington being on Labor Day. I get that side of it. However, Daytona, where it's at now to end the regular season as that final wild card, last chance on a super speedway, I don't think they could have found a better spot to put that last chance to get in race. I really don't. I love the fact that that is at Daytona on a super speedway.
Chris?
Atlanta would be better.
Fair enough.
Mike.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You can't argue that one. We haven't seen it, so I don't know, but I can't argue against it. You're right. Atlanta would be a good. I will back that. Yes.
Mike, Road America was a really good race during the 4th of July weekend. It only I think it was 1 year, maybe 2 years of that. But I mean, I'm a traditionalist. I like the tradition. I like the fact of the Daytona Pepsi 400, I think is what it was called for so long. Even if it did last 10 to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes because rain was going to definitely hit. I think that's just part of it. But,
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah, that was another aspect to it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I just got to say this, Chris, it's late. I'm tired and irritable, and you're going to bring that up, and Sharon knows this. Don't get me started on taking the race away from Road America. The Chicago Street Race, you've heard me say it's good. I like it, but yeah, I was madder than heck when they took it away from Road America.
Hey, how about the lawsuits?
Oh, you want to talk about the lawsuits? I don't think so.
Somewhere there's a hang up button or a log off button. I got to find it. Hold on.
Well, remember that there was a chance that they were going to lose their charters by Atlanta, and this is 2 weeks down the road, going into 3 weeks down the road, and there's still not been a decision or a date. It was supposed to. They were carried through this weekend at Chicago. They're supposed to now, unless they get another.
I think we'll hear something this week.
Delay, or I can't think of the legal word. Another continuance. I can use big words too. Continuance in the lawsuit. That if not, the decision should come this weekend. They are either open teams or not going into Sonoma, but that could change with the continuance of the case.
Well, they're trying to get these guys to talk to each other and come up with a.
That was part of it too. Was they wanted them to go to mediation? Yeah, that is also true.
Whether or not that's happening, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see what happens this week.
I know.
Maybe we'll talk about it on Monday. Go ahead.
I know I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, you said we're going to probably have to talk about it on Monday. So.
I bet we're going to be talking about it on Monday.
One way or another, yeah, because something has to happen, because if not, it was supposed to be determined this week.
So keep in mind, we will be back on next Monday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, to talk about the hot topic sound-offs from this coming weekend of racing. Jay and I will be doing the previews, 3 races this weekend with the ARCA West also racing at Sonoma Raceway, as well as the Xfinity and Cup Series. And, of course, we always come back on Monday with the reviews of all the racing over the weekend. And so I feel kind of good. Usually it's me getting ready to fall asleep, and it's you guys this week. But I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time to tune in, and thank you to Thurston.
There you go.
For taking part in the conversation with us tonight. We really do appreciate that. Huh?
Shout out to Denver.
Shout out to Denver Thurston, yes.
And I'll second or third that. Appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you to everybody else from tuning in, whether you listen to the live broadcast or the podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to hear what we have to say. And I think we're all going to go to bed now. So you guys have a good evening, and we'll see you on the other side. Jay and I will be back with the previews later on this week.
Night.
Good night, everybody.